Hey guys, TommyBryson here, and inflation is literally not a joke. And if you thought inflation was a joke, well, you were laughing until you got to the grocery store and you spent more money than you ever had, for example, just on 3 or 4 items. Like I had a tight budget of $200 a month, and then all of a sudden I'm going to the grocery store buying the same things but spending a bunch more money. And that started to slowly but surely start to show me, hey, inflation is starting to kick in. And once I was done with groceries, I went to put on some gas and I was like, wow, yeah, I see it. It's happening. And then all the things around me started going up in price. And that's when I saw, hey, inflation hits different. Inflation is not a joke. And that's why in this video, I'm going to give you 3 ways to go ahead and fight inflation. And by the way, imagine for the average person that has a very tight budget, lives paycheck to paycheck, and all of a sudden you're not changing anything, but the prices increase. It can change and turn your whole world upside down. And that's why I'm making this video today. And as always, guys, smash the like button. It helps a lot with the channel. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell to get notified, because I do post videos every single day, or week I should say, or actually every day, about money, making money, or investing, and sometimes about the news like inflation here. Now, the very first thing is, guys, okay, when it comes to inflation, you have several parts of it. You have the part of inflation where you have, hey, things are going up in price. What can I do about that? You have the part also where, hey Tommy, I have some savings. What can I do about my savings and not letting it be eroded or just turn to nothing, turn to ashes? And Tommy, what about my investments? I have this much money in investments, but now things got more expensive. What can I do about that also? So in this video, I'm gonna cover all 3 of those things right there. But now let's start at the very beginning, and that's all about the price of needs and just things overall. They just keep going up. Now, by the way, I'm always super surprised about how efficient and how fast our economy actually acts as soon as the Fed goes ahead and also acts. Because, for example, once we shut down the entire economy and they said, well, we gotta lower the rates like crazy, became very cheap to borrow money. People grabbed that money freely and bought a bunch of houses, raised the prices up like crazy. Things got out of hand. And then we also printed a bunch of money. So now the average people out there, they had a bunch more money. People were getting paid not to work, spending a bunch of money also, and prices just went up overall everywhere. And you see that over and over and over again, right? That's impressive to me. I'm a nerd. I like that stuff. Not to say I like inflation, but I like to see how the Fed can just basically manipulate the economy and it just works. For example, my aunt, she is a professional cleaner. She has done that her entire life almost, okay? And all of a sudden, when inflation hit, I saw her make calls to all of her clients and say, hey, prices are going up, things are getting out of control, I'm raising the price. And all of her customers, except one, try to complain or whatever, but everyone was like, yeah, I understand. It makes sense, because naturally, prices were going up and people were okay with paying extra money because that is what was going on. Now, how can you and I, average people, average folks, fight against that? The idea is, guys, it all depends on what's causing it and what is going on in the overall economy. Because, for example, right now, we know what's causing it. We lowered the rates like crazy. We printed a bunch of money. Things got out of hand, and now we're trying to slow it down by increasing the rates. That's what's going on right now, right? But how can you protect yourself against it? Well, in reality, the other good part is that right now we have a very good competitive job market. So just like inflation went up, well, so did the amount of money that employers are willing to pay people. So meaning you can get a job that pays you more money now. Now, although you're getting paid more money, if prices went up, then in real dollars, you're not really getting a raise whatsoever. You're just getting more money to adjust for how much things actually cost. That's the crazy part about this. It's kind of like saying, like, hey, I'm gonna raise your salary from $100 to $200, but your cost of living went from $100 to $200. So did anything happen? Reality, no, okay? Everything kind of stayed the same. But the big thing is, okay, if you see yourself right now in a job and you're getting paid the same amount of money and you're seeing people are coming into your company getting paid more money than you do, or you're seeing, for example, in the job labor market for your industry that people are getting paid even more money, the idea is you go to your boss and you ask for a raise based on merit and also based on economical situations, okay? You're noticing that basically, I can leave this job, but I like it, right? I like what I do here. I like helping the company, but I can go somewhere else and get paid more money for the same exact job. So why wouldn't I do that? Plus, my cost of living is going up like crazy. So naturally, it makes sense. Now, am I telling you right now to go to your boss and say exactly what I told you? Remember, I have no filter. I gotta give you things the way they are. But in the job world, you can't just go to your boss and be like, oh, yeah, things are up, give me more money, or I'm leaving to another. You can't say that obviously, okay? But the idea is you get, watch another video about how to ask for a job. There's this great guy about this stuff, man. His name is Ramit Sethi, and he teaches people exactly how to ask for a raise. Google it, and once you ask for a raise, you can get a raise, because if you don't get a raise in reality, you can just go somewhere else and get another job. So the idea is to fight inflation. As far as, for example, everything is going up in price, well, if salaries are also going up in price, you're gonna pay more money. The idea is you either ask for a raise, you get another job, or you just leave the company overall and find something else. That's the cool thing. And I've never seen like this in my lifetime, where I drive past McDonald's, it was getting paid like, I think it was like 7 something an hour here where I live, and all of a sudden it was 8. And then all of a sudden it was $8.25, then $8.50, and then boom, today I passed by and it's like $9. Might not sound like a lot of money, but it is a lot to go from $7 to $9 in just a few months. That's pretty crazy. And that's the opportunity that you basically get. But things are expensive, so it's not like a real raise, but it's you fighting against it because you need to get more money to live the lifestyle that you were living before. So it's not fair if you stick where you are. If that makes sense, comment down below, job, so I know. Now, number 2, guys, okay? My savings are losing value. So a lot of people, we're savers. I'm a saver, not naturally. I had to teach myself to save money. Naturally, I'm a spender. I like spending money, especially on trash. I gotta be honest, I gotta be real, okay? But my mom is a natural saver. She loves savings, that's what she does, okay? But when you save your entire life and all of a sudden, boom, tomorrow things get a lot more expensive, then whatever your savings were, they don't have the same purchasing power, which means your savings just lost value in a sense, and you never really want that. It's like the person that hides, for example, $1,000 in the 1900s, wakes up today and they're like, well, I can't buy anything anymore with this money, okay? Because inflation is eroding your buying power, so it makes no sense to just go ahead and save. So what can you do to combat basically inflation and protect your savings away from it? In reality, I only believe that you should be saving for 2 things, and that's it, nothing else. The first thing is you should have a savings account for your emergency account. That's it. So if you have money in there, let's say you have 3 months worth of your expenses or 6 months worth, or if you're weird like me, you might even want to have 12 months in there, okay? Depending on your job and how risky it can actually get, if you get my drift there. But the idea is, if you have 6 months worth and you're seeing your cost of living go up, then obviously you make adjustments for it and just add more money into it. But in reality, your emergency money is not for making money, it's just for security purposes. Now, the second thing you should basically be saving money up for is for things you plan to buy in the short term. And the short term for the boring investor long-term guy on YouTube is less than 5 years, okay? For most people, that's like long-term. For me, it's short-term. So, for example, if you plan on saving up for your education, to buy a home, or for example, to buy a car, and you have that money being saved up, I doubt you're gonna have any hyperinflation figures to the point where in 1 year, your buying power is completely eroded. I don't really see that happening like right now, but it could happen in the future. But in today's market, what's just happening is things are getting more expensive, but it's not really by like 20, 30, 40%, if you know what I mean, okay? That's a whole different economy, and that's a whole different problem, okay? But that's the only things you should be setting money aside for when it comes to emergency money and things you plan on needing that money for in the short term. Now tell me, why wouldn't I go ahead and just grab that money and put it in an investment account for 5 years? The answer is because this. If you are saving money for education or for a house or for a car, and you put that money, for example, in the stock market, in the S&P 500, well, this year alone, it's down by 20%. And if you look back, for example, to 2020 March, it was down even further. So the idea is when you need money in the short-term period of less than 5 years, you just want to have that money in the side because you're going to need it for a purpose. Okay, that's why you don't want to do that, because maybe when you do need the money, the dumbest thing you could ever do is have your emergency money in your investments, because by selling it, you get taxed. If the market is down, you take a loss. It makes absolutely no sense. My point is, don't try to make money off of all your money. All your money has different jobs that enable you to keep on investing. So your emergency money is for emergencies. And one thing I do, I'm a weirdo, so I do this, okay? I add an extra $50 or $20 or $100 per month to my emergency fund just to naturally, organically adjust for inflation in the future. And at some point, it's gonna keep growing and growing and growing to maybe more than 12 months or so, but I don't really care. It's just to adjust, to prepare for that part. Just by putting an extra like 20, for you it could be $10 or $15 or $20, but that keeps adding up every single year, every year, and it keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So as your expenses go up, naturally, your emergency funds are already like covered, so you don't really got to worry about it that much. That's something that I do. So overall, to protect your savings, just don't have money in your savings that you're gonna need for the long term. It makes no sense. Just have the short term stuff, and it's okay because you're gonna be using it in the short term. And in 5 years or less, your money is not going to turn into rubble, because if it does, then we have a whole different issue, and that's a whole separate video that I hope to God I never have to make. Now, the third part here, guys, this right here is the last part, so listen closely. And by the way, this right here is the scariest part, so super important. But overall, how do you fight inflation against your investments? Now, imagine this, you're 65 years old, or you already are 65 years old watching this video, because people watch me that are older, by the way. That's why I love making these videos. But if you're 65 years old, and you've been saving up for retirement your whole life basically, and now all of a sudden things change by maybe like 10%, like for example, food is up by 10%, gas is up by 50% almost, and then everything, basically your cost of living increased so much, and you had a plan to retire that same year or next year. The answer is now you can't do that, okay? Because for example, if all you needed was, let's say I did my budget, I just want to have $40,000 in passive income a year for the rest of my life after I retire, so I can be just fine. But now, if things change by 10%, your cost of living, and now that $40,000 goes up to $44,000, well, that's $4,000 in real dollars. Now, to make that money in passive income from the stock market by using the 4% rule, you're gonna need an additional $100,000 in your investment account. And that's an additional, I don't even know how many years. My point is, that's the real thing. That's the real thing that happens all the time. And that's not even me telling you the truth, that me saying also, well, you have inflation just happen, cost of living goes up, things get a lot more expensive, basically the buying power of the dollar erodes. But then on top of that, if it's time for you to retire and you're retiring right now, well, guess what? Right now, the S&P 500 is down by like 50, well, not 50%, I'm sorry, sorry about that. It's down by like 20%. And that's a crazy number, because let's say if you need to have $1 million in an account to take 4% to give you $40,000 a year, well, you're down now to $800,000, which means you're not gonna be getting $40,000 at all. You need to stay there at work a lot longer. So what is the only thing that you can do, well, I recommend you do to basically fight against this when it comes to protecting your investment account for retirement in a sense? Well, my idea is very simple, and is to incorporate what Ben Graham had in chapter 20, I think it is, of The Intelligent Investor, and that's basically a margin of safety. And what that means is, if you need X, well, add an extra 20% or 50% to that number to just help you out, so when things go wrong, you won't be affected. Because, for example, okay, this is, by the way, a lot of money, a lot of numbers here. But to get to $1 million, which sounds like a lot of money, in 30 years of investing, it's not that much money. Because you only need to invest somewhere around $345 a month. That's all you need to invest. If you invest $345 a month, which doesn't even max out your Roth IRA, you'll have $1 million in 30 years. And that $1 million is gonna be fully tax-free if you put it, for example, into your Roth IRA. Now to get to, for example, well, Tommy, you're telling me $1 million might not be enough. Well, $1 million might not be enough if you wanna have, for example, $40,000 in passive income following the 4% rule. If you don't know what the 4% withdrawal rule is, it basically says, well, if you take out 4% of your retirement funds and you live off of that, you'll have a less likelihood of running out of money. So it's making sure that whenever you do the math, you just do the math basing it on, I'm taking 4% and that's it, so you don't run out of money. So in this case, to take it from 1 million to 1.2 million or to 1.5 million, the only more money you have to adjust into your monthly investments is only around $172 to bring up the number to $517. So if you were to invest $517 per month, for example, for those 30 years, you'll have around $1.5 million if you earn around 12% on your portfolio. And that's going to be more than enough, because for you to be in trouble, the market has to be down by more than half. And that's not that likely, okay? That's my point. So this way you have an extra cushion. But overall, guys, if you notice here, everything you kind of do here is defensive, but the only offensive thing that you can do, like offense, as far as, for example, protecting yourself against inflation, is this right here. And it's basically creating less friction in your financial life. So for example, if you have no debt, that means you have zero cash flow going out to somebody else. If you have a fully funded emergency account, that means you have, for example, more security in case something goes wrong, and you don't just have to rely, for example, on the government and everything else, okay? So having 6 months in there is really awesome. And on top of that, if you have a growing investment account, like to get to your goal of $1 million, if you want $40,000 or less, whatever you want, the answer is have that growing investment account, but you invest in that 10, 20%. But most importantly, if you have a paid off home, lastly here, what do you have? You have basically a very low cost of living. And once you have that and you combine that, for example, with a good job that you actually enjoy and you like, the answer is if inflation runs rampant for a while, you won't be really that damaged, because your cost of living, the important stuff, in reality is more like fixed in a sense, because you have no shelter costs anymore. You have fully funded emergency accounts. If you lose your job, you can get another one. And on top of that, you have an investment account to help you with the or should I say, with the loss of buying power in your real earnings. You can just take some money from that and just adjust it in, and then that way you're good to go for a short time, okay? That's the idea, because no economy can really support hyperinflation for a very long time. So if we were to be in that issue for a very long time, then the issue would be a lot bigger and would have a much bigger problem. And that's a whole different conversation. But overall, that's what you do to fight inflation when it comes to groceries, when it comes to your savings, when it comes to your investments. And overall, the best thing you can do is to set yourself up financially for financial freedom, so you don't have to worry that much. And by the way, I have a full course on this stuff when it comes to how to get a financial freedom in 4 steps. And the link is down below to that course if you actually want it, along with a $100 off coupon, link down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, hit the bell to be notified, and comment down below job, so I know that you are a real person and that this is a real comment, okay? And as always, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram at TommyBryson. Up here is another video. Here is my face. Click and subscribe. And as always, Long Term Team officially out.